Welcome to the No Quit Living podcast, where we aim to inspire and motivate people to never give up on themselves or their dreams. We will chat with highly successful people from all walks of life and discuss what motivates and drives them to successfully attack life head on and never give up. Welcome to episode number 12 of the No Quit Living podcast. I'm your host, Christopher J. Worth, and the theme of the day is helping others. Our quote of the day comes to us from Les Brown. Help others achieve their dreams, and you will achieve yours. This episode of the No Quit Living podcast is brought to you by the I3 Initiative. In our society, it's so easy to get caught up in the drama and negativity of the world around us. However, we're ready to make the world a better place through improvement, impact, and integrity. You're invited to learn more about our book club, membership, live events, and mastermind at i3initiative.com. That's the letter I, the number 3, initiative.com. I'm extremely excited for today's episode. Not only have I known today's guest since 2001, but I happened to meet him at the University of North Carolina in the Dean Smith Center. Ironically, both of our first high school head coaching jobs took place in the town of Rye, New York. His basketball resume clearly speaks for itself, as he has coached at some of the best colleges in the country, such as Kansas University, University of North Carolina, the Naval Academy, St. John's, Notre Dame, Fairfield University, and Iowa State, just to name a few. In addition to being a successful coach, he is an even better person, father, husband, son, and friend. With that said, I would like to welcome the Kansas University assistant basketball coach and my personal friend, Fred Cordobaum. Q, I'd like to welcome you to the No Quit Living podcast.
Chris, it's an honor to be a part of this podcast. I think what you're doing is so valuable in so many different areas of whether it be sport, business, or just, how to live the right way. So really honored to be a part of this podcast.
Well, thank you for being here. Coaching college basketball is definitely a competitive and very challenging field. I wanted to ask if you had a personal story you could share with our audience about perseverance, or perhaps a challenging time that really tested you, but you kept on going and never quit.
Well, Chris, I've been involved with college basketball probably over 24, 25 years. I'm kind of telling a little bit about my age, but going into college basketball, particularly as a coach, you have to understand that there are a lot of sacrifices, commitments, things that you will probably miss throughout your tenure, because it's such a demanding. It's not a 9-to-5 type of job, so you're always on call, just about 24 hours from that standpoint. So I think you have to be able to balance your personal life as well as your professional life in this particular business. But I think one of the most challenging moments that I probably had throughout my career is probably getting fired. And that's also a part of the deal. You will get fired at some point. There's only a certain amount of coaches throughout their careers that probably has never been fired or reassigned and those things. But, it has happened to me while I was at St. John's, and it was a period that I had to decide whether I wanted to continue to coach at the collegiate level or wanted to go a different direction. And it was a difficult time because you've been doing something all your life, and you've been, adding value to people's life, particularly young people. So I had to kind of change gears a little bit. It was a difficult time for me, but I knew in my heart that I wanted to do this because of my passion. It's kind of a law of attraction that you just love to do. So, it was a challenging time for me because, I'm living in New York. I have a wife. I have 2 kids. And, and I tell them that I'm going to go in a different direction. And the great thing, I had their support. So I ended up going back to school to get my master's degree. And on top of that, I did some things to stay involved with basketball. But lo and behold, about 2 years later, I get this phone call from University of Kansas, Bill Self, asking me that I have any interest in getting back into coaching in a particular position on his staff. And it was a little different because I've never been in a coaching situation that did not allow me to actually actively recruit or to actually be on the floor to coach. And it turned out to be the director of student athlete development for men's basketball here at the University of Kansas. And it was a challenge because, again, a new role, probably more administrative than actually on-floor coaching or actively recruiting. But I took it as a challenge. I took it as an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to get better. And obviously, at the historic program of Kansas and working for, now Hall of Fame coach Bill Self, it's really turned into a great, great opportunity. But there were those of want to continue to proceed on? Do you want to continue to reach higher goals? And there are some people that may have decided they wanted to go in a different direction and probably change fields. But I continue to stay the course and continue to believe in myself and in what I do. And just so honored to be a part of the University of Kansas, all because I continue to stay persistent, continue to stay, geared towards my goal and passion.
No, I remember that time I actually was visiting you at your summer camp in Westchester, New York, and you told me that you were going out to Kansas. And selfishly, I didn't want to see you go from our friendship, but knowing that it was a great opportunity to not only go to a unbelievable university with a huge, huge basketball history, but more importantly, to coach alongside now, as you mentioned, a Hall of Fame basketball coach. And obviously, since you've been there the last few years, you guys have had another great run. And it's just, to me, and hopefully this will be on recording, in regards to other people, is it's only a matter of time before you guys win another national championship. It'll be your first, but it'll be Coach Self's second in that regard. But I think you bring up an interesting perspective, is getting fired happens to so many people within the coaching world, whether it's high school, college. And the question is, how do you handle that? And you handled it unbelievably well, and you created another opportunity for yourself, for your family, which led to the next opportunity, which is where you are now at the University of Kansas. So I commend you for that, and it was great having you back here. And selfishly, it was nice having you at St. John's University, because you were 45 minutes down the road. So many of our listeners are into personal development, and I was curious if you have a favorite book, or if you've read something recently that you'd like to share with our audience.
I think there's so many great books out there, and I think in coaching, you're always trying to find an edge, especially when you work with student athletes that are either making a transition from the high school level to the collegiate level, on and off the court. So you're always trying to better yourself, or how can you add value, to their lives, because you're around them so much. And, one of the things that was shared with me such a long time ago was the value of reading, the value of knowledge, the value of educating yourself. So there are a ton of books, but one book stands out to me, Chris, would probably be Jay Billis's book, Toughness. And I say that because there's in the book, and I'm not sure, I believe you may have read it. I believe you and I have had a conversation with this years back. But I think it's a book that will add so much insight about the meaning of toughness, for on and off the court development. Because sometimes we look at toughness as being physical. We look at toughness as being, bigger and stronger. But really, toughness really stands, between your ears. And that could be from doing things the right way over and over and over and over and over again. Sometimes it can be pretty boring, but if it's going to add, progression, or add, something of value that's going to continue to help you or help others, well, boring, and learning to understand that boring is actually something good for you. And I think for most kids, they look at boring being, gosh, why do I have to do this over and over again? And I've learned that from a young age, that doing something consistently over and over and over again does build character. It does build mental toughness. So, toughness to me can be a learned skill. And Jay talks about that in his book, whether it be, being a great screener. Maybe you may not, your screens may not show up in the stat sheet, but your screening, doing the little things, helps you and helps your team be successful. So being able to understand and believe in that and then be able to share it, I think is such a huge advantage. And I think, again, I'm kind of all over the place, but, I look at this book and I compare it to Bill Self, and you see that 13 consecutive Big 12 conference championships. Yes, you have to have talent. There's no question about it. You have to have chemistry. No question about it. But I think one thing that Bill Self's teams have year in and year out is they don't have egos, but they have this learned skill called toughness. So I would recommend, whether you're an athlete, a coach, or anything in life, if you're a father or, husband, I think it's a fantastic read. I think it's a fantastic book, and I think you can learn so much value from Jay Billis in this book called Toughness.
No, we definitely have had conversations about that, and it was actually during my first year as a high school varsity basketball coach, and we had probably about 4 or 5 tough games. We won one of them, lost 3 of them, should have won, could have won all 4 of them. And I had asked you if there was a book, and you actually recommended Toughness. And full and fair disclosure, we went on to win the New York State title that year. I can't say it was 100% based upon Jay Billis's book and or your recommendation, but I definitely devoured that book in about 2 days and got a lot out of it. And to your point, whether you're a husband, mother, father, daughter, son, sister, coach, or player, the book has so much overlap to life in general about doing the right things and the consistency and doing the things that you don't want to do. And as you mentioned, the boring component of it. I had Alan Stein Jr. on one of my podcasts a couple episodes ago, and he talked about back in 2007, 2008, he witnessed Kobe Bryant doing a 4 a.m. workout, and he said he was impressed by the fact that Kobe was fanatical with the basics. And he asked him later on that day, and he said, Kobe, why is it that you do the fundamentals? And he said, why do you think I'm the best basketball player in the world? And to your comment, it comes down to the consistency and the persistence of doing those, as you mentioned, boring things, but it's mastering those that make you great and take you to the next level. Being in a very stressful and incredibly competitive field, what drives and motivates you to keep going every single day?
Well, I think the quest of being in a position, I think one, from a basketball standpoint, is, everyone's ultimate goal is to win a national championship. And winning a national championship has so many things obviously have to go your way, Chris, but it's what you can control every single day. And sometimes in my role here, it may not be, again, from an on-floor coaching standpoint or, a recruiting standpoint, recruiting the best players. That may not be my role to help our team get to a national champ. My role may be to make sure that the bus is on time, to make sure when we get to the hotel that our meals are on time or our rooms are all squared away. So, and I say that now as I'm older, that those little things go a long way, in terms of, okay, I may be in charge of the itinerary for our trip. I may be in charge of, connecting with the opponent's director of basketball operations to organize our practice time at that particular arena. So all those little things matter because we want to make sure that our guys are as prepared, as organized, leading up to our games. So I've never been in a role like that. I used to just get on the plane and get on the bus or sit down and eat or those things. Now I'm in a different role where I'm kind of the behind the scenes coach to make sure all those things happen, because anything that's off or anything that's, you don't want to have any distractions, going into a game. So, I think that we all have different roles that we bring to the table. And that's one of the things that I take a great deal of pride in, to help or say to myself, what can I do today to help us get to that ultimate goal? And I think that's so important, especially in an organization or even in a family, that everyone has a role to do, and it's your job to be the best you possibly can of that particular role to help your team be successful.
I think you bring up a great point. Question you ask yourself is what can I do today to help us get to that ultimate goal? And I think, as you mentioned, it's all the little things that add up. And not to go back to a sports analogy, but one of the things John Wooden would do every single season, even with Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Bill Walton, is he would teach his players how to put their socks on so they wouldn't get blisters. And it sounds so simplistic in so many ways, but his philosophy behind it was, if my player gets a blister, whether it's game 1 or game 20, he's not going to play the same way. He's not going to feel comfortable, but it's all the little things that add up.
Absolutely. There's no question about it. And I think that's the difference. And I say, being around Coach Self, he understands and he's bought in to the little things, the little details. And when you have, the so-called best players in the country, the All-Americans, the lottery picks, the one-and-dones, the walk-ons that may not play in the game. We have a group of individuals that come from, different parts of our country, and now bringing them all together to come to one common goal is so vital. So when you have your leader buying in, understanding, pushing forward that the little things are important, it's amazing what happens, whether at a place like Kansas or in business, when you have people buying in, Chris, to doing the little things and are excited about doing these little things.
No, definitely. All those little things have a huge impact. I was curious, Q, do you have a specific morning or daily ritual that you feel has led to both your professional and personal success?
Absolutely. Every morning, and I kind of, the players kind of giggle a little bit about this, but every morning I write down, because probably I'm not that very smart and my memory's losing a little bit as I get a little older, but every day, Chris, I write down a things to do list every morning. And it probably will start out, just an example could be work out, eat healthy, academic meeting, recruiting mail out, return calls. My son has practice at 6 o'clock. Follow up on text messages, input some material into our database, meet with Udoka or one of our international students on their passport or visa documents. So all these things add up, and it's pretty neat that once the day is over, I'm always amazed at the things that I check off throughout the course of the day. So I think being busy really keeps your day going. It keeps you active. And there'll be some things that I may have not gotten to that I can kind of follow up the next morning. So, the great thing about working with Coach Self, too, is, he allows you to be great. He allows you to excel. He allows you to work and be out of your comfort zone. So that has helped me in my role, is getting to know as many people I can throughout our campus, because at some point our communication or our paths are going to cross, particularly working with student athletes, whether it be an international student situation, an academic situation, or sports information where there's a interview that needs to take place. So I'm kind of that middle person throughout the day. So it kind of keeps me energized and it keeps the day fun. And like I said, whatever you can bring to the table to help our program to be the best it possibly can. And for me, it's writing things down, and it has allowed me to be as organized as possible, Chris.
Speaking of Coach Self allowing you to get out of your comfort zone, is that something that he talks to you and the staff and the team about?
Well, I think he does, because, again, for us to one thing, and I guess it starts with, Coach really enjoys personalities. He enjoys people, and he enjoys, people that have no egos and have no agenda, and understands that regardless of the success that we have individually, nothing ever is going to be as bigger than Kansas. So once everybody buys in that what we're doing every single day is to help the University of Kansas, to help our basketball program, he says, hey, guys, let your hair down and just let it go. And I think if you watch our team, we play with just a freedom about ourselves because he doesn't want to hold you back as a person. He doesn't want to hold you back as a coach. He wants you to be the best you possibly can. And the only way you're going to exceed or excel to that area is, number one, you have to get out of your comfort zone. And most importantly, you got to be able to help others. And those are the two dynamics, the two factors he talks about every single day. Again, those little ingredients or recipes are, lead to the success that we've had throughout the course of Coach's tenure here.
That's a great point. And I think it's the little things, as you mentioned, but also getting out of your comfort zone and helping others. And obviously, on a basketball team and a successful college basketball team, if your team's not helping each other build and grow every day, obviously there's no way you're going to have 13 consecutive Big 12 championships. Here's a question a little bit out of the norm. If you could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Dinner with one individual. It would probably be John Wooden, Chris. And I say that because, had a chance to meet and talk with Bill Walton. He actually spoke at our practice when we played Texas. And, it was a shoot around, which is an hour, but he probably spent about 30 minutes, talking to our guys, about what John Wooden meant to him and what John Wooden meant to, the game of basketball. And it was amazing. Again, it had nothing really truly to do with the championships. It all had to do with adding value to the lives of young men. And you hear the pride, and we see Bill Walton in a different light a lot when we see him as a commentator. But I was so moved and so impressed with Bill, how smart he is, number one, and just the admiration that he had for his college basketball coach and how he continues to be a positive influence, in his life to this day. And I think that's so unique, especially if we're all trying to, strive for, perfection or excellence or being the best we possibly can. I think Coach Wooden believed in those rituals, and he would be obviously a coach or a person that I would love to just sit down and have about a 30-minute conversation with, over dinner, hopefully steak.
Yeah, I can tell you, I think I might have shared this with you, but in 2005, my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, my mother and my father and I had dinner with Coach Wooden and his publicist. And then after that 2-hour dinner, Coach Wooden invited us back to his house. And it was just probably about 4 hours total throughout the whole evening that I'll never forget. But at the end of the dinner, or during the dinner, excuse me, my mother, who never played sports, was even calling him coach, and his ability just to connect with people was amazing.
Yes.
I was curious if there's anything exciting or interesting going on with the Kansas University basketball program that you could kind of tell us about.
Well, I think what's actually, it's kind of a neat thing that we're actually preparing this summer to take our team over to Italy. And I think it'll be a great educational experience more than anything, because a lot of our guys have never been abroad. So, neat things that we usually do, we'll probably have have someone come in and share with our guys about the culture, just about the daily life of living in Italy. So I think that's always a kind of cool thing. And I think it makes our guys feel, a little bit more comfortable once they go into a different country and just have an understanding and appreciate, the value and the culture, of how others live. We did that when we went to Gwangju, South Korea, a few years ago for the World Game. We actually had a class, Chris, for about probably about a month, on the culture and the values of living in South Korea. And it was kind of neat. I actually sat in the class, and just to hear the dialogue or the engagement between the professor and our student athletes, talk about the daily, agenda of living in South Korea. So I think that's a new thing that's coming up. Obviously, we have Frank Mason, who was the best player in college basketball this past year, and to see his accolades, individual accolades, throughout the Final Four, and then last week won the Wooden Award. So we're excited about his future. Josh Jackson, will obviously be a top, 5 pick, possibly could be number 1, in next month's draft or in June. So a lot of great things that are going on in Kansas basketball, and we're just excited about where things are going moving forward.
No, it sounds really interesting, and actually sounds like an incredible trip. If you need someone to come along and help on the trip, just let me know. I will definitely, if there's any chaperones needed or assistant coaches, I'm definitely throwing my name in the hat for that one.
Chris, you're probably the 79th person, so you got a long list, but if we dwindle down to that, I'll keep you in mind.
Hey, you as you know, this podcast is all about motivating and inspiring. So if I'm 79 or 78 or 80, I'm still positive because I assume there's a way we can kind of push those people to the side. But listen, before we let you go, I wanted to ask if you have any parting words for our listeners.
I would say, live every day. And I know it sounds but live every day as if it's the last day you're going to be on this earth. We always take, we take things for granted. We take, our breath for granted. We take our relationships, our interactions for granted. Oh yeah, we'll see them tomorrow. Oh yeah, we'll wake up tomorrow, or whatever it may be. We take things for granted because, again, it's something we do every single day. And I think we kind of forget the value of life, forget the value of this great gift that we have. So live every day, go after it, challenge yourself, live out of your comfort zone, enjoy it. I mean, just have every day is with a smile, regardless of the circumstances. Like I said, I've been fired and okay, what's the next challenge? Where are we going? Let's go. So I think having that right mind frame, Chris, I mean, it just makes things so much better. And I think when you value life itself and understand that it is a gift, that it is a blessing, how could you not have a good day?
To sum up today's episode and our theme of the day, helping others, Coach Q provided us with some very simple yet extremely powerful takeaways. Coach Q discussed how difficult it was getting fired from St. John's for both himself as well as his wife and 2 sons. However, it made him bend, not break. Coach Q went on to discuss just how important the little things are and how his job now is to help his team and the players eliminate distractions by being as prepared as possible. He also discussed how head coach Bill Self clearly has bought into all the details, and with 13 consecutive Big 12 NCAA conference championships, mastering those little details is clearly working. Coach Q wrapped up our conversation with some powerful comments. He mentioned how important it was to live each day as it's your last, to never take things for granted, and to live out of your comfort zone. So with that in mind, who can you say thank you to today? Who or what deserves both your appreciation and time? And lastly, what is the one thing you could do or try today that might lead to your big moment? Go for it, and go for your greatness. And lastly, to our listeners, thank you. We truly appreciate your time, and we hope our episodes inspire you to keep on attacking life and never giving up. To quote Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, it's always too early to quit.